Tennessee game against Penn State. Tennessee, of course, leading that game, and it looks like the Volunteers will be winning that game. A big victory for the SEC over the Big Ten. But on the other hand, yeah, you have Auburn, which is struggling mightily against a Maryland football team. That score, as we kind of scroll down, try to find the latest score on that, 24-7. That's in the Music City Bowl, 24-7, and that apparently is at halftime. So good to have you with us here as we go live. We're going to talk a little bit about the University of Georgia and the big game against FSU in the Orange Bowl. The Orange Bowl game coming up shortly. That game will be begin at 4 o'clock. We just wanted to pop in here and kind of get your thoughts. If you want to share with us your thoughts about this game. And we've been looking at this game and kind of studying the analytics and the statistics and that kind of thing. But all of that went out the window with the opt outs and the portals and I'm not going to play and I might play and maybe I should play and that kind of thing going on in college football, especially with this game on the side of FSU and all of the apparent confusion that FSU has on its side with its roster. Florida State will be starting a scholarship the only scholarship quarterback they have, Brock Glenn, who is a freshman. He'll be starting for Florida State in the Orange Bowl. So coming into the game, the University of Georgia, the latest line I saw, Georgia is a 21.5-point favorite over Florida State. So let's talk a little bit about this game, and if you have a comment on it. By the way, our prediction for this game, Georgia winning 34-7. I think Georgia's going to dominate this game. Georgia, with its roster as opposed to the FSU roster, should dominate this game. But it's sometimes when you go into these games like this and you talk about the University of Georgia, Georgia has a way at times to kind of play down to the level of its opponent. Now, you certainly now look, Florida State's undefeated, won the ACC. Florida State undefeated through the regular season, the only Power Five team to miss the playoffs since the college football playoff process began, who went undefeated and won its conference. But Florida State, good football team, good defensive football team, but they're going to have some offensive challenges today with all the opt-outs and all of those guys who will not be playing for Florida State. Georgia, on the other hand, doesn't quite have that issue. There are some questions about is Brock Bowers going to play for the University of Georgia. Apparently, Ladd McConkey will be playing for Georgia today. So that's kind of good news. Amarius Mims is with the team. Now, there's a question as to whether, I think even to this point, whether Amarius Mims will be playing for Georgia. We'll have to watch that. But what an interesting game between Georgia and Florida State in the Orange Bowl. It's one of those games where you almost kind of, ask yourself, does either team really want to be there and playing in the game in Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida? And of course, the Orange Bowl, a prestigious bowl, one of those bowls that will have a very prominent place in the future in the expanded playoffs for the college football playoffs. And certainly will, this bowl will play a part in the future playoff scheme for college football. So it's a prestigious bowl, and you have two very good teams, obviously. Georgia losing only one game this year to Alabama in the SEC championship game, Florida State being undefeated. Just a little bit about this game. And what is your prediction? We go with, what did I say? 34-7. 34-7 is our prediction for Georgia to win this game. Hey, Junior, how you doing, my man? We just wanted to pop in here pregame. The game will be starting at around 4 o'clock, just to kind of see what you think. Brian wants to know about Bowers. I don't know. It's kind of a well-kept secret, to be honest with you. I don't know if I haven't seen any reports, and we got some guys, who try to get inside information for us of about the Georgia roster and Georgia players. But really, to be honest with you, Brian, I don't know if Brock Bowers is going to play or not. I have a sneaking suspicion probably not, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did play, to be honest with you. It's kind of an interesting thing. Hey, Deborah, how you doing? And Dwayne, yes, indeed, go Dogs. So, what is your prediction? Georgia is 37, 21, and 3 in bowl games. Pretty good record. 37, 21, and 3 in bowl games. Georgia is 3-1 in the Orange Bowl, and just heard on Bulldog feed that he wasn't going to play, according to Stewart. That Brock Bowers was not going to play. And Brian wants to know why would he make the trip and practice if he wasn't going to play. I think it probably for Brock, and he's still dealing with that injury. I mean, he had surgery during the season and he's still dealing with the injury. I think it just gives him a time to stretch the injury, to practice with the team. And listen, these guys love one another. If you've played team sports, the relationship you develop with your teammates. And I know that Brock would much rather be in Miami on the sidelines than in Athens, watching the game on television. So, if Brock is there and he's not going to play, he's going to be there to encourage his team, to be with his teammates, to enjoy the experience of being with the bowl game. And, whatever Brock is dressed, according to Brian. Okay, we haven't, I haven't received that confirmation. So you may see, it's all up in the air. You may see Brock Bowers on the field, and I hope he does. Frankly, I hope he plays. Great ball player. Now, I think the chances of him returning to UGA next year are very nil. In fact, if I could advise Brock, I would tell him, son, listen, yeah, you've done so much for the University of Georgia. We love you. We appreciate you, but you need to go on to the NFL, and we don't expect any more from you. Now, if he stays and he has the option of staying at Georgia, hey, let's celebrate. But I would anticipate him going. I just think I think Brock is there, just to really be with his teammates, and he might play. Football players want to play, and they really do. And if you're a football player and you haven't been infected with that a money mentality, I guess, or whatever, and they need to make money from it if they have the ability to do so. But if you haven't been infected with that and you're a part of the team, then I think that's why you see Brock there. Let's see, Georgia again, 37, 21, and 3 in the bowl games. You might remember a couple of years ago, the last time they played in the Orange Bowl, you might remember what Georgia did to a Big Ten team by the name of Michigan. They just destroyed Michigan in the Orange Bowl a couple of years ago, and that was part of the college football playoff system. The FSU is 29, 17, and 3 in bowl games. They are 5-5 in the Orange Bowl. The last appearance also was against Michigan in the Orange Bowl. That was in December of 2016. This will be the third matchup between Georgia and Florida State in the history of these two programs. Georgia beat the Seminoles in the 2003 Sugar Bowl. The teams tied in the 1984 Citrus Bowl. Georgia is 6-4-1 against Florida State all time. Florida State won the ACC. They're the first and the only Power 5 conference champion not to be selected to play in the college football playoffs. Jordan Davis, of course, the great quarterback for Florida State, had a season-ending injury, and there was a lot of questions about, well, if that quarterback is gone, then, Florida State shouldn't be in the playoffs, that kind of thing. Me personally, I just, I don't know why you could not have pivoted if you were the NCAA and say, okay, this is kind of a different kind of year. We have two teams that are on the outside looking in that are playing each other in a bowl game. Let's include them into the playoff system. I think this game ought to be a game that is a part of the college football playoffs. Of course, it's not going to be that, and it won't be that. But I think it should have been. I think Georgia and Florida State. I think this should have been a playoff game, and somehow, some way, you work the thing out. But the NCAA is not nimble on its feet, and it's not going to do something like that. But I think that would have been a great thing. To be honest with you, Georgia had not lost a game since the 2021 SEC championship game, winning back-to-back national championships. Of course, Georgia then lost to the Crimson Tide in the SEC championship game, and that knocked Georgia out of the college football playoffs. So, to be honest with you, this really should have been a playoff game. But I just there are 40 players. There are 40 plus players from both sides who are not playing in this game due to NFL opt-outs, transfers, and injuries. 40 players. You combine the two teams, 40 players from both Georgia and FSU who are not playing in this game, who are a regular part of these teams. And that's, somehow, some way, something's got to be done about that. This is not the FSU team. Georgia will not be playing the FSU team that went undefeated. This is not the FSU team that had a great season. Now, they're still a talented team. Georgia's a 21-point favorite. Florida State's going to give Georgia a game. Georgia, I'm sure, is going to give Florida State a game. But this is, it's just this portal business and this transfer business and this opt-out business and this kind of thing. It just really can't go on and be sustained. And of course, with the expansion of the college football playoffs to 12 teams, then that's going to handle a lot of this situation. But I tell you, it's kind of weird. 40 plus players on both sides combined who are not playing in this game, who were a regular part of the of each of these rosters, not playing. Now, Tate Rodemacher, the quarterback for Florida State, who filled in after Jordan Davis was injured, a kid from Valdosta, Georgia, son of a college or a high school football coach, a good ball player. He opted out, and his reasoning was, although I haven't heard this, was that Florida State has brought in some quarterbacks through the portal, and it was clear to Tate that he was not going to be the man of the future for Florida State. So he said, "I'm gone, and I'm out of here." And so we do see reports now coming in that Brock Bowers is practicing. He's on the field. He's dressed out. Still hadn't heard a definitive report as if he's going to play, but apparently he is. I mean, if you're dressed out and you're practicing and you're getting everything together, it looks like you're going to play. And well, he should. For Georgia, key players for Georgia today, obviously Carson Beck. Thank God he's coming back, and we're so glad for that. Carson will be back for the University of Georgia. Carson with a great season this season, 3,743 yards passing. He completed 72.4% of his passes, 22 touchdown passes, only 6 interceptions for the season. He rushed for 127 yards, had 4 rushing touchdowns during the season. Dejon Edwards, of course, 818 yards rushing. Kendall Milton, 686 yards rushing. Brock Bowers, 56 receptions, 713 yards, and 6 touchdowns. In receptions, Tyke Smith on the defensive side, 67 tackles. Smile Munden, he's coming back, and that's good news. 67 tackles. Javon Bullard, and of course, one of the leading tackles for Georgia, no longer with the team, going to the University of Arkansas, Jamon Dumas Johnson. And so, checking I believe, if I can find this right quick, I believe Tennessee's score has gone final, and Tennessee with a big win over Penn State. So you have an SEC victory, of course, over over Penn State and Clemson yesterday. And my feed here keeps doing some weird things. But Clemson beating Kentucky yesterday. Missouri with a big win over Ohio State. Peach Bowl final, Ole Miss 38, Penn State 25. Maryland is handling Auburn pretty handily at the moment. So that's what's happening with college football as we head toward this big matchup. Hey, here we go between the University of Georgia and FSU. It's not exactly, it doesn't have the vibe, obviously, of course, of the past 2 years when Georgia was in the college football playoffs and the bowl games that they were participating in really meant something big for Georgia if they could win the games and continue on in the college football playoffs. But the Orange Bowl is nothing to snuff at. It's a prestigious bowl, obviously a great history, and Georgia has a chance today to stack up another win. And with Missouri's big win over Ohio State, that gives more kind of weight to Georgia's schedule. With Georgia with a big win today, you could see Georgia ending the season within the top 4 in the final rankings. So it'll be an interesting game. We're going to get out of here and get our refreshments together, sit down in the beautiful recliner that we have and watch the first half. We'll be back with you at halftime, and we'll talk about the first half. So go get them, dogs. It's time to get another victory here as we close out 2023, believe it or not. And so we'll be back with you at halftime. And until then, go dogs.